Going live. Hello. All right, we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GravityMax live stream. I have COVID, so I'm just going to stay on mute for most of this, but yeah, that's it. Take it away. I don't want
So
to talk too
yes, Max is down with the sickness. So
much. Yeah.
it's going to be primarily me and our lovely guest. Thank you for joining us, Jacob Friedman, aka Daikaiju Productions. Thanks for being here. And yeah, we have a really fun one for you guys today. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. It's a pretty nice day over here. The sun is shining. I feel like March is one of the worst months. We can get into this a bit later, but I feel like definitely top three worst months because it's just in the way. You know, it's like just give me full spring. You know, March has to be half and half. But regardless, today this is the final quote unquote content episode of the season. Throughout this season, we have detailed humanity's trek through the stars and what space travel is going to look like and what civilizations are going to look like, stuff like that. And today we end it on the final chapter in humanity's plight through the galaxy and through the universe. So we will get into that after the plugs. Are we capturing cursor? You betcha. And thanks for being here, Jacob.
To be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So, it feels weird. I'm doing the plugs. This is new. Make sure to visit the Gravity Max website at gravitymaxmedia.com. It has a lot of cool things on there. Definitely check it out. And you can also get updates if you follow Gravity Max on social media. He has an Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook, and if you want to be a number one good cookie and get brownie points, you can donate to our Patreon. We'll definitely do some fun for you if you do that. And also follow Sebastian on social media. I have an Instagram at 128 seconds, and of course my main channel is 128 seconds on YouTube. I upload short educational content, which is the short companion to this longer form live stream, and I take complex topics and I give them to you in less than 128 seconds. I'm pretty proud of it, and I think you'll enjoy. And we've finally done it. We made the Govern Max slide. We finally remembered. So, check out the Govern Max YouTube channel. Here, Max will give you updates on what has been happening at the government level, any new executive orders that are passed, other stuff, maybe Supreme Court hearings, stuff like that. Anything that's happening at the government level, he will read out, and it's a really good source for information because it's just a reading of it, and you can get that information pretty much directly as it occurs in the government. And the link to that is in the description. And I believe this is the first time we're announcing it on stream. A somewhat odd start is coming to Amazon on April 23rd. This is the third book in the series. The first book being A Truly Dead Rock, the second book being A Bottled Up Flame. Definitely looking forward to this book coming out so I can hold it in real form. And that'll be out April 23rd. I would highly recommend checking that out and looking for it on Amazon on April 23rd, if I haven't said that enough. So, we now have reached the final content episode of our journey through the stars. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Now, say humanity perseveres through the universe, what will civilizations at the end look like? As the universe fades into nothing, what will happen to us? All that and more on today's episode of the Gravity Max livestream. So, how this is mainly going to run is we're going to talk about the 5 ages of the universe. And the 5 ages of the universe, they are all measured in 10 to the n years post the Big Bang, and that will become clearer as we get into them. It's just a way of categorizing periods of time as we go through the universe. These periods of time are going to be noticeably different from each other, mainly based on what the universe contains. We're going to look at a bunch of types of stars and star remnants. But off of that, we're also going to infer what civilization would look like under these conditions or under these time periods. Without further ado, I guess we're going to jump right into it and jump right into the main conversation. So, we start with the Primordial Era, which is 10 to the negative 50. N is anywhere between 10 to the negative 50 and 10 to the 5th power. So, this Primordial Era is basically what we just calculated out before the stream. This starts 3.15 times 10 to the negative 10 to the negative 43rd seconds after the Big Bang. So almost immediately as the Big Bang happens, as everything we know in the universe comes into existence, as the Big Bang explodes and stuff starts forming, and hydrogen and helium and everything's going crazy. Of course, so it's directly after the Big Bang, and this is mainly when stuff starts getting formed. All the materials that you need for stuff to start getting formed is from the Primordial Era. You're going to start to see stuff further condensing and turning into stars, planets, other stuff, rocks. Everyone loves a good rock. All of that stuff floating around after the Big Bang. Jacob, if you had the chance to see the Big Bang, would you?
Maybe with some like solar glasses on. I don't want to go blind.
Very true. It is estimated that the Big Bang, I forget the exact estimate, and I forget the scientist that figured it out, but the Big Bang is almost 80% as bright as when you turn your phone on in the middle of the night and it's at full brightness. It's about 80% of that light level. So yeah, you would definitely want some solar glasses or some sunglasses or some form of eye protection, because this is the dawn of creation here that you're looking at. One can only imagine. But so civilization in this this section is going to go pretty quick, just because there really wasn't any civilization, like life hadn't begun in the universe at this point. This is all just stuff getting formed, our solar system getting formed, our sun being created. All of that is the Primordial Era. And so, if there was a civilization, they have not stuck around, or at least we don't know about them, but it would be very hard to maintain a civilization this era. Even think about what Earth was like as it was getting formed. It was hot, it was nasty, it was like, Florida in August. It was just horrible, right? You just get everything, it's nasty, right? So you're getting stuff getting formed, so the majority of civilization is going to take place after the Primordial Era.
So, know how like stars die and then new stars are born, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That theoretically happened for universes. And a civilization survived from one universe into the next. And you could see it. That nature of civilization would be advanced enough to survive that. You'd have to be basically just living in space stations, and I think you'd have to have like technology capable of just rearranging atoms to make new elements and make whatever you need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be food or water as we know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
In an easy to get way.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting point. That harkens back to the Kardashev scale, as we were talking about in previous episodes. That manipulation of atoms and creating like new elements on a large scale. I would say that's probably falls under Kardashev 5, which is when we start manipulating the universe itself. And that's actually the basis of the character Galactus in the Marvel Universe. I've probably talked about this before. But Galactus, his lore is that he was from the previous universe before the current Marvel universe, or it's technically a multiverse, but the current Marvel universe that we all know and love with, Spider-Man, Iron Man, all of that. If I keep naming them, I'll get a cease and desist. But Galactus was from the previous one, and he just had sufficient technology, I believe was what it was, but he was the only one of his race to get carried over. And he was just a normal guy in his universe. It's just the power level of our universe compared to his universe is just so much weaker, so he seems effectively like a god. But yeah, no, that theory that the universe is kind of cyclical, that, it starts with a big bang, ends with a big bang, or ends by being condensed, and then another big bang happens, and then another universe is created. Yeah, that's definitely been a theory that's been postulated a bunch of times. And yeah, we could further look into that on a bunch of later episodes. That'd be a very interesting topic to talk about, or I could even cover it on 128 seconds. But yeah, 100%. Kardashev 5 Society, one of the biggest things we were talking about when we got to, even going back to Kardashev 4, was trying to defeat entropy, trying to defeat the universe effectively destroying itself. Now, I guess what we talk about in this episode is if those guys failed and the universe was able to just decay and all that stuff. But what we're going to present in the later eras of the universe is effectively what we would be trying to prevent as a Kardashev 4 or 5 type society. Because that's when, and you'll see, that's when stuff starts dying, that's when stars start blinking out, and that's when everything we know and love just starts going poof. But yeah, so Primordial Era civilization, yeah, it's interesting. The only possible civilization, they're like, I guess the most probable civilization that could exist in this era would be one from a previous universe. That's a very interesting thought experiment. And they would most likely have to be Kardashev 5 or Kardashev Omega or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so yeah, this section is going to be probably the shortest one because it's going to be very hard for a civilization to exist here unless they have universe-altering technology. So, without further ado, unless you have anything else to say on this, Jacob, we will move on to the Soliferous Era. That is a nice picture. Let's admire this picture. Thank you for admiring this picture. So the Soliferous Era is what we currently live in. Jacob, how would you rate the Soliferous Era based on your experience? Scale 1 to 10, 10 being the best.
I go with pi.
Pi. All right. So, the Soliferous Era has been given about 3 out of 10 stars by people that have reviewed it. And so, but basically in this era, it's, you're here. We're all here. So this is, again, it's defined as n is anywhere between 6 and 14. This is where stars, galaxies, and galaxy clusters are in existence and are basically just sticking around. Like, we're all pretty, quote-unquote, happy in the Milky Way galaxy. I feel like I would be a lot happier if we didn't have such a ridiculous name as the Milky Way galaxy, which Max enlightened me last episode, or the one before that the term galaxy also comes from milk. So we, as a civilization, have been living since our initial evolution into Homo sapiens. We have been living in the Milky Milk, in the Milky Milk system, or the Milky Milk way. I'm not happy about that. I don't want to live in the Milky Milk way. I want to live in something cool.
I don't know about that one, Seb. This is the way.
This is not the way. If this is the way, then the way is wrong, Jacob. But,
Look at the end of the Stelliferous system, then we'll have like traffic signs up in front of like solar systems, and ours can just say, "This is the way."
This is the way. Yeah.
Or you could just have Cardinalship 5 beings like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get some milk, harvest a galaxy." Never comes back.
Yeah. But honestly, if our galaxy was even just called the Way, that'd be cooler. But yeah, so you got stars, galaxies, galaxy clusters, and the majority of the energy in the universe is produced in stars. Stars are, as you can probably tell from the name, stars are the most dominant objects of the universe in this era, which they are currently. You have a wide range of stars. You can look at stuff we've talked about in the past, namely about stellar classification. Max has a video on stellar classification. It's really good. You should check it out. So we have a wide range of stars that exist, and that's where the majority of the energy in the universe is. And if you get a bunch of them, all in a little interesting pattern, that's a constellation. And the stars last night, I was talking to Max about this. They were very, very clear from where we live. So I was able to see a bunch of constellations very clearly. I would highly recommend getting into even just light astronomy, just learning basic constellations so you can look at stars and recognize them, because it's honestly very cool. And it was very cool to see a bunch of stars last night that I'm usually not able to see. So I would recommend a lot of people do that. But yeah, stars.
Right?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Why did you put on glasses last night?
It was just very clear. Like, usually you're only able to see, just because of conditions, you're only able to see parts of constellations. Like, it's rare that you can see like the full constellation. Like, there's a couple, like you can usually see the main ones in like the dippers and stuff like that. But specifically like the bow section of the Orion constellation, you're not usually able to see, but we were able to see that last night. So that was very interesting. And it was very nice to look at. So with the Soliferous Era, towards the end of it, the stars start kind of packing their bags, to be honest. This is when we start getting into the era of the last stars. So I'll pop over there. Yeah.
Before we head over there,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
What do you think civilization during the Stelliferous Era would look like?
So I missed the first part of that.
What do you think that a civilization in the Stelliferous Era would look like?
I think we have to go back to the age-old question of what would have happened if Al Gore was allowed to be the president. Right now, we live in a dystopian world where Al Gore was not president, but I'd like to believe that if he was, we would be in a utopian-like society. Let's bring it down to a smaller scale. Jacob, what would you rate today's society on a scale of 1 to 10?
Today's society, I don't know. I'll give it a 5.5. It's kind of nice, but it's kind of disjointed. It's not very consistent, you know?
Inconsistency. So society in the Stelliferous Era, from notable critics, has been called inconsistent. It's been given a 5.5 out of 10, and honestly, you get a lot of, it's very controversial. You get a lot of people that don't like it. You get a lot of people that are okay with it. So
I give it points for trying.
Yeah, definitely points for effort.
It's doing its best, but it's just kind of dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So, it's inherently limited.
Yeah. But, you gotta give it props. You gotta give it props for trying, because that's all we can ask of it. But so
It's made a good effort to prove
yeah,
itself.
yes,
No,
absolutely, absolutely. So right now we are tending kind of towards like the middle of the Soliferous Era. We're still like technically in the first half, I believe. I think we're in like I think N is at 9 or 10 right now. Just off the top of my head, I would check that. But so we're kind of towards the middle, but still towards the front of it. When you start getting towards the end of it, that's when the stars start to pack their bags and start to head out. So, talking about the last actual stars, the last actual stars will be the red dwarfs. Red dwarfs are the smallest type of star that is actually a star, which means that they're going to stick around the longest. These guys last for around 1,000,000,000,000 years, so these guys stick around for a while, and they're going to be the last actual stars. Now, I'm putting emphasis on that because the other stars, the other star types that we all know and love, and if you don't know or love them, you can check out Gravity Max's video on stellar classification, and maybe you'll find love in your cold dark heart. But those stars will turn into stellar remnants. That's what they'll decay into, and we're going to talk about those in the next era. But the last stars that are actually still stars, you're looking at the red dwarfs. So towards the end of the Soliferous Era, you're going to look up at a sky full of stellar remnants, if there are stellar remnants that give off a significant amount of light, or red dwarfs if you're living close enough to them to see them with your naked eye. Which is really interesting to think that there will only be one actual star type in the galaxy, because right now you look up and there's a whole myriad of them. But so yeah, towards the end of the Soliferous Era, it actually gets kind of scary, because that's when the stars start heading out and there becomes a lot less diversity in the stars in the sky.
I suppose there's a certain irony in the fact that when all the stars become red stars, red dwarfs, right?
Mm-hmm.
All exactly the same in collective unity.
Yes.
Right.
The red stars have formed a commune in the night sky.
Exactly.
But yeah, so towards the end of the Soliferous Era, the stars become communist, and you start to lose the other diversity in the stars. But so yeah, this era, society in this era, you've seen it. You can decide whether you like it. If you don't like it, maybe go into politics. I don't know, but try and change it or something. Activism. I don't know. But going back to the Kardashev scale, I believe that within the Soliferous Era we could get to Kardashev 2. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if we could get to Kardashev 3. Again, there's a lot.
You could get Kardashev 3.
You could.
It would only.
Kardashev 3. Okay.
Yeah, you could colonize the whole galaxy in a few million years if you really tried. Just because, think about it, right? It's 100,000 light years across,
Mm-hmm.
and if you were to do that at like 1% light speed,
yeah,
that would only be 10 million years, which is weird to say only, but in terms of the ages of the universe, that's not a very long time.
Yeah. So yeah, we could even hit Kardashev 3. And it would probably be in our best interest too, considering that now these stars are decaying into stellar remnants. But yeah, so yeah, we could hit Kardashev 3, and Kardashev 3 is control over the galaxy, like Max just said. So we would have, in a Kardashev 3, we would be able to drain energy on the scale of on a scale that would be able to hold or sustain a society that spans an entire galaxy. So, yeah, and again, you can go back to our episodes on this to check out the exact details of a Kardashev 3 society, but it's very powerful, very energy efficient, lots of futuristic technology, and all of that stuff. And that's kind of the very start of the fight against entropy, which, you know, I would like to believe that that would be one of humanity's goals, because they would look at how far they've come and look at the impending existential threat to beat any other existential threat, that the universe will decay into nothingness unless we find out a way to stop that, unless we beat thermodynamics. So that's where this fight starts.
Just imagining you have like the 69,420th president of the United States, Ronald Reagan, and he's like, "Today I am announcing the war on entropy."
Yes.
Just say no to entropy.
Yes. Is someone asking you to decay? Yeah.
Yes. He's like, entropy, this will lead us to a degenerate era.
Ooh, funny you should mention the Degenerate Era. That is the next era of the universe. Over to the Degenerate Era, and let's all just admire this picture real quick. Thank you for admiring this picture. And it is anywhere between 15 and 39. So, a big while, I would say. Such is the scientific name for this length of time. A big while. But in this, the picture I chose here is, you know, an artistic rendition, I guess, of a neutron star. So, yeah, this is... The main reason why it's called the Degenerate Era is not because, you know, there's, like, any malice towards this era, I guess. It's because all the stars...
The era in which the furries take over the universe.
Wow.
Yeah, basically, the Degenerate Era, the name comes from degenerate matter.
Yes.
Which is a state of matter that is highly concentrated and only kept from collapse by its own internal pressure. Mm-hmm. So white dwarfs are electron degenerate matter because it's kept, you know, supported by electrons repelling each other. Mm-hmm. Neutron stars are made of neutron degenerate matter because they are kept supported by the repulsion force of the neutrons on each other. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and so since all of these different objects, like the vast majority of the universe that is left, is made of degenerate matter, that's why this is called the Degenerate Era.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly that. I couldn't have said it better. That's what all of these remnants and everything that is now occupying space is powered by, is that degenerate matter. Going into what those things are, we start off with brown dwarfs. So brown dwarfs are stars that didn't initially have enough mass for fusion, so they can't really power themselves, and they just don't really have enough mass to handle themselves. So these are like failed stars, I guess is probably the best way to put it. They can't power themselves. They are, you know, they can't work for themselves, so they're going off of stellar welfare. But other than that,
the Degenerate Era.
Yeah. But so yeah, I would imagine there'd be a bunch of these. Again, there's 4 main stellar remnants that exist in the Degenerate Era, and we'll go over all of those. But yeah, just this is the era of decay. Like the Soliferous Era was the Roaring 20s. This is the 30s. Like, this is when all the good times we had start, like, the consequences start coming in. And we're like, oh boy, this credit thing is kind of strange. So, this is, I do like the name, the Degenerate Era. It is, you know, it's kind of reminiscent of what's going on in the universe, because it is kind of, and obviously the literal version is because of the degenerate matter, but it's kind of like a degenerated energy state from the Soliferous Era. So all the constellations that you know and love have started turning into, or I guess have at this point, turned into stellar remnants of what they used to be. So, a
That's
civil.
unfortunate. I think that might be bad for the economy.
Yes, this will be disastrous for the economy. Um, Speaking of the economy, a society in this time period, I would estimate that you could probably get to Kardashev 4. Max, any thoughts on that? I'm not too good with the time lining up with the Kardashev scale.
Let's see. So, yeah, Kardashev 4 is kind of complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could do it before, actually, just based on the size of the universe, which is, say, 100 billion light years. That's 10 to the 11. And, we're only at... And it takes until 10 to the 15 to get to this point. Mm-hmm. So you could probably do Kardashev 4 before this. But yeah, for brown dwarfs specifically, the way that you could use them as an energy source is if you have artificial fusion. So you can use the hydrogen because it's made of hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just use that to power your fusion drives. Or you can it does have some internal heat just left over from when it was created.
Mm-hmm.
But that might have dissipated already by the Degenerate Era. So the best thing to do would be artificial fusion.
Yeah. And yeah, that'll definitely be another staple of societies that are in the Degenerate Era. They will obviously have had to adapt to the new circumstances, because now the stars have degenerated into the stellar remnants, so they need to adapt to these new forms of energy. And like with brown dwarfs, they have a lot less energy than a full star does. So production will have to increase. You're going to have to get more Dyson spheres or Dyson swarms around brown dwarfs, or other more mining operations, mining the hydrogen out of them, like Max brought up. Stuff like that. It's all just going to have to adapt for it. But again, like Jacob posed, this will be terrible for the economy, because now the supply is going down, yet the demand is going up as the population is ever rising. So, floating around in a Kardashev 3 or 4 society, Jacob, would you say that a Kardashev 3 or 4 society would have obtained a copy of Shrek 5? What are your thoughts on this? Oh, did Jacob's Wi-Fi cut out? It might have. The power of the Shrek 5.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth. So Jacob obviously knows something, or the FBI raided his house for illegally having a copy of Shrek 5 from the future. So as he fixes that, we just, again, brown dwarves, a lot less energy than the stars we all know and love. And again, if you don't know or love them, check out that video on stellar classification. It's very good. But yeah, honestly, that's brown dwarves. Not a lot to them. Yeah, Jacob's saying he can't hear us. I'm gonna tell him to just try and restart. This would not happen in a Kardashev 3 or 4 society. Our internet would be hopefully pretty good. I'm just gonna try and get him back in here, but yeah. Other than that, oh, there he is. Hello.
Wi-Fi's being annoying.
All right, I need to get your camera back on. This is always an adventure. So we're just gonna be kind of floating in space. Oh, there he is. Yes, he has returned. So, Jacob, I don't know.
Come back to you. I am Jacob the White, and I come back to you now.
Yeah. Yes, he's returned. The wizard is back. The question that was thrown at you, I don't know if you heard it before the internet cut out, was do you believe that a Kardashev 3 or 4 type society would have a copy of Shrek 5?
I think that they should,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't trust humanity to not pull like a Library of Alexandria and destroy Shrek 5.
Yes.
Like, I don't doubt it would have been created, but I think that humanity might be unwise enough to destroy it.
That's a very good point. And again, that really plays into the whole theme of the Degenerate Era, is that the universe is just losing its like lust for life. This is the start of the decay. Or I mean, the start of the decay was really at the end of the Soliferous, but this is when the decay starts being super tangible. Like it is dominated by these stellar remnants. So the destruction of Shrek 5, this futuristic tragedy that we are now coming to terms with, is again metaphorical to the universe's slow descent into madness and chaos and disarray. Such is the evil of entropy. But
That's something I wonder about. It's probably not, but I'm wondering if the universe starts like collapsing, right?
mm-hmm.
Will that like drive us mentally mad?
That's a very
Like,
good point.
if you use the analogy of the Force, right? When the dark side gains a lot of power, you see like conflicts spring up around the galaxy, completely like on its own. And it will have like logical reasons that it happened, but it still increases as like an indirect result. So I'm wondering, will this like cause humanity to just itself start decaying?
It's a very good point.
Society.
You could see like resource wars.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's a thing that kind of happens sometimes. Like right now there are a few brewing like water wars. Which is basically like there's a river that goes through multiple countries and then one country decides to like dam the river. So then the other country's like, you can't do that.
You can't dam that one country dams the river, and in the process, all the countries that are like southbound of that river, or not like south, but like downhill,
downstream, yeah. Then they all.
You've like, damned us all.
Yep.
Yeah, no, 100%. That, and again, like we were talking about in the earlier episodes, it's likely that when you get a society that spans a galaxy or, you know, a universe, if we've even gotten to that point, society is going to be so decentralized. Like, you're going to get a mega city here and there for people that want to remain part of a community, part of like a large community and like, I guess, the urban lifestyle, but you're really going to get a lot of people that just live out on just where they want to be, either floating through space in an artificial habitat or settling down on an M-type planet or something to that tune. So society is just very decentralized, and with that decentralization, I guess tribalism, you could see a rise in tribalism if you have different communities of however many people, and they need resources from, you know, this certain patch of brown dwarves, even though that's not a lot of energy, but another community also wants that. There you go, resource war right there. So that, I definitely agree that the resource wars would definitely go up, or could be a circumstance of the universe itself degenerating. But you also have to remember that it's just so existential. It is, again, like I said, the existential crisis to end all existential crises or crises is the universe itself dying. And there's no better marker of that than the shift into the Degenerate Era. So that, yeah, even just speaking on stuff like just the general morale of the people, there's really going to be two options of either, or I guess three options would be that, it's just people see it as an impending thing and they just don't really do anything about it, or people just choose to be oblivious about it, or humanity tries to come together. Tries to come together and try and defeat it in whatever way they can. And again, in a Kardashev 4, that's when the main fight to stop entropy happens, and that's where they would try and figure it out. But yeah, as the power of the universe decreases, I guess very analogous to entropy itself, chaos ensues. So, if we have nothing else to say on brown dwarfs, we pop over to white dwarfs. So, white dwarfs are the remnants of stars that are similar in mass to our sun, I guess like mass around that of our sun, that are not, they don't have enough mass to become neutron stars, which is the next thing we talk about. But these white dwarves, again, stellar remnants, I would guess they probably have more energy than brown dwarves because they're just larger. Max, is that accurate?
Yeah, white dwarves. So white dwarves, when they first form, are very hot, and they are rotating fairly rapidly. And so you can sort of siphon off that energy. That energy will just dissipate on its own, but you can also siphon it off to power a civilization.
So, yeah. It's the remnants of those stars, and again, they could be a source for energy mining, or just, I guess, energy collecting. And again, just another point of resources for humanity to fight over. And again, at this point, we did bring this up in earlier episodes, it's likely that because society is so decentralized, you're almost going to get different species of humans, just because there has been so much time that has passed. This is evident of divergent evolution, I believe is the term, where it's just so much time has passed that people kind of just evolve differently. So that could even play into this.
Think of like Darwin's finches.
Yeah.
But at that point, we might just be like non-organic, artificial.
That's a very good point. In Kardashev 4, Kardashev 3, the move towards humans being more artificial is definitely a very strong possibility. Where, if our bodies start decaying, we will replace that with artificial parts. Or even we try and achieve technological immortality, which is uploading our brains to a computer. So, a lot of stuff like that. I guess with this, we're kind of assuming that there are still a lot of people that are floating around in their physical form around space, which still, I do believe that there would be some people that would opt out of uploading their brain to technology just based on trends. Like we have, I don't know, Amish people currently, but other people might be turned off by the fact that they don't want to become, fully artificial, I guess. So for the people that remain biological, they're stuck in this universe where they are now fighting over these resources, and the resources are becoming more and more sparse because the brown dwarves and white dwarves can't really sustain themselves. So eventually they will spin themselves out of energy, or they'll just, fizzle out. Speaking of spinning incredibly fast, if we don't have anything more on white dwarves, we can pop over to Neutron Stars, which I know spin so fast. I want to get their spin rate, actually. Fast. Neutron.
You spin me right around, baby.
Neutron stars can spin as fast as 43,000 times per minute. I've seen it. I've seen bigger estimates. 716 times per second. Yeah, just completely mind-boggling. That might be the same estimate. I don't know what 716 times 60 is, but stuff like that. So they're spinning incredibly fast. Yeah, that's around the same estimate. But
that is a nice trick.
Yes, it is. So with the absolute whirlwind of neutron stars, I would say that they would be probably one of the better sources of energy that exists in the Degenerate Era. So a lot of people fighting over these. Also, I would imagine that they'd be very pretty. Like we saw the artistic rendition earlier. So maybe they're just very nice to look at, if nothing else. But yeah,
this one kind of looks like a troll doll or a star in a way.
If a what were a star?
You know, like those troll dolls?
Oh yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like one of those turned into a star.
Because of the looming insanity that you feel seeping into your brain as you gaze into its soulless eyes.
Yeah. Think about like the bright, like hot pink core plus like the crazy, almost like hair coming out of it.
Ooh,
Harry
okay,
Stars
yeah.
is.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Harry Stars is not a good idea though.
It's true. But yeah, this artistic rendition kind of makes it look a little funky. But yeah, it might be cool. It might be cool to like view them at a decent distance, because I'm sure these things are dangerous.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, like, you know how we have like paintings today as our art, and people paint stars. I'm just wondering if people start like creating custom like constellations in the sky, as their form of artwork.
Dude, 100%. That's a very nice sentiment, actually. I really like that idea. But Kardashev 3, Kardashev 4, that's when you start manipulating stuff to that scale. Like Kardashev 3, Kardashev 4, you can start creating artificial heavenly bodies. So you could, effectively make your own constellation. If you got a decent amount of people with a decent amount of technology, you could do that. I imagine people start shit posting with stars.
Yeah, so like they form like a constellation in the sky, and it's just like the cat meme with like the poking, like the woman like
yeah,
and the cat's like,
or
just puts that in the sky.
Yeah, I imagine there'd be a lot. Someone would definitely make a phallic constellation. Some dude would go out and do that.
Someone makes the Among Us guy in the stars.
And it would be hysterical, because imagine these people are just living on one solitary planet, and then you get these guys that go up and change the constellations. You know that guy would go up and do that with the Among Us character, and then would run back to the planet and go up to his group of friends and be like, hey guys, I don't know, the sky's looking kind of sus tonight. And then they all look up and they're like, Jerry! And he's like, but credits.
Like, I'm losing it. I'm losing my freaking mind. I'm going insane.
I can't handle it anymore.
I can't take it anymore. Everywhere
like,
I see,
everywhere I look, I see his face. Yeah, but yeah, there'd be that's some top tier comedy, and as the universe darkens, or just the general world darkens, I find that like the request for comedic entertainment goes up. So that would definitely be one of the shining lights of the Degenerate Era. People would start becoming hysterical and hilarious. Had humor.
Especially by our standards, because if you look at like 1500, in the 1500s, everything was funnier back then. So imagine like their humor being ported back to like right now. honestly, I'm not sure if we could handle the neutron style there. We'd probably just explode. Probably because but there would be so much like energy and involved in that we probably literally could not process it.
Yeah. I bet people were just hysterical. Like, they obviously did a lot of horrific things in the 1500s. People were not nice to each other. But it's like everyone walking around is Jerry Seinfeld. Like, they're like, because they don't understand any science, they're like, hey, what's the deal with rain? Because they legitimately don't know how rain works. I feel like that kind of comedy would be hysterical. But with, like, the
You
neutron...
could literally
Yeah.
you could put Da Vinci brothers back in time and they'd be
Oh, God.
intellectuals.
They would. They would be, like, commended for having, like, the closest guesses towards the answers.
They could probably like start their own church.
Honestly. They would be like, who? They'd be like, what the hell is the Mona Lisa? Or, like, Leonardo da Vinci ends up getting named after the Da Vinci guys. But, yeah, funny stuff like that. But, yeah, that's Neutron Stars. Neutron Stars will make people funny, is the bottom line of that. So, we go up to the final main solar remnant that you're going to get in the Degenerate Era, which is Black Dwarfs, which are just white dwarves after a long period of time. So eventually white dwarves will themselves start decaying even further than they decayed from the stars they started from, and they will turn into black dwarfs, where their energy output is even less, and they have, less fusion or less things going on with them. So very little energy output, I would estimate. So a lot of people would, I guess, try and tend away from them, just because of the low energy output. The neutron star definitely seems like the cream of the crop in the Degenerate Era. It's what people go after when they need energy. Like, something's got to power the microwave, and it seems like it's definitely going to be the neutron star. So, yeah, again, it just kind of speaks to the fact that the universe is just decaying, and there's just different states of decay, but it is a downward spiral, is what it is. And I guess this is kind of a notion to that. But yeah, if you have anything else to say on the Degenerate Era, I would say it would be a very difficult time to live in, because it's kind of the reason why November, like, as we were talking about before the stream started, November is the worst month. I know Max might have different thoughts on this, but I'm putting it out there now. 128 seconds and Daikaiju Productions approved. November is the worst month. Why?
But Thanksgiving, though.
You need to be quiet and get rest. You are horrifically ill, Max.
Yeah, I must be having a fever dream.
You are. This stream isn't actually happening, Max.
Uh-oh.
But Jacob and I believe that November is the worst month. I honestly believe it. It's just because I don't really like winter. I respect winter. I get why it is a thing. But I don't really like winter. Summer is my favorite season. So it is, November is what lets you know that winter is coming. Like, like October, that's fall. That is like solidly fall. But November, it lets you know it's like winter's here. Or like it's like it's the nagging little like thing in your ear that's like it's coming. Uh-oh, better get ready. And that's kind of what the Degenerate Era really is. It's like it's bad. The era is following this. They're worse. It's like.
Also, I'll add about November is that here in Florida, November's better because
that's fair.
It's too hot before.
All right, that's very fair.
So.
I'm sure November in like Australia is very nice because that would
I think it would
effectively
be
be,
too hot there, actually.
yeah, November in
It'll be
Australia.
summer there.
Yeah, it would be summer. Yeah, I guess would that be their version of August or would it be their June?
November would be, so that's the 11th month.
Yeah,
So the equivalent would be the 5th month,
so it's
so
May.
May.
May's nice, I guess.
Yeah, but it's a desert. So
That's very true.
May in Florida, that's sort of how I imagine it, except less humid.
Mm,
May in Florida is pretty hot.
yeah, but yeah. So the universe goes further down the downward spiral.
It's a collective. This is the universe's collective message to humanity when it says, "Better wake up before you forget how."
Oh, yeah. It's that one scary final warning or the scary message that's like, hey, it gets worse. So now we move on to the black hole era. Let's admire this picture. This is a very nice picture. Thank you for admiring this picture. N is anywhere from 40 to 100, so large stretch of time, and very true to its name. Organized matter is really just black holes. We're also going to talk about iron stars, which we'll get to in a second, but the majority of matter, or organized matter, I guess, is it's just black holes. This is all the stars that are going to go supernova, have gone supernova, and have condensed into black holes, and it is just a nightmare because literally all the stars are replaced with black holes. Imagine every star, in the that you look up and can see on the clearest night of the year, all of them just black holes. That is a nightmare. you know. So, and black holes again have just been characterized as, and I would say rightly so, as some of the scariest things in the universe. I actually have a video on black holes on my channel, 128 Seconds, but the basis of them is just they have singularities at their core, which has an extremely high density, and that causes it to have an extremely high gravitational attraction. Nothing can escape the event horizon of a black hole, not even light. So you have these things floating around that nothing that nothing can escape from. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, when two black holes kind of collide, is that when they form a supermassive black hole? Like the black hole gets bigger?
Yeah, so the supermassive black holes, we don't actually know their origins. It's theorized that they're like primordial, so they
Mm-hmm.
formed in the early universe where everything was so dense. Because the thing is, the supermassive black holes are like 1,000 to 1,000,000 times more massive than the
Mm-hmm.
stellar mass black holes.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, sorry about that. So that would require a lot of collisions
That's very
to
true.
get to that size.
Yeah. But still very, very scary to be around. Um, and I mean, that would effectively make the sky pretty much entirely dark. Um, like we'll talk about iron stars, which would exist kind of towards the start and throughout the middle a little bit of the black hole era, but those don't really give off a lot of light, so it's like looking up the sky and just seeing the absolute black of night. Obviously, like take light pollution into account, but um, that's a pretty jarring image if you ask me. So, if we pop on over to Iron Stars, and again, at this point, civilization, it's just, it'd be very tough because we have now lost our main source of energy, which is stars. So, we would be relying entirely on artificial fusion and other artificial forms of energy. So, depending on how far we've come at this time, either we will be able to sustain ourselves or we won't, and we will fizzle out like one of these stars. But again, you're going to be relying purely on artificially created energy, or artificially
Yeah,
generated energy, I should say.
so yeah, iron stars,
Hmm.
these need like an asterisk because they might not ever exist.
Hmm.
Oh, there he goes. It basically depends on whether or not protons can decay, which
Hmm.
is sort of up in the air. We've done experiments and we know that if protons do decay, their half-lives
Here.
are at least 10 to the 33 years long.
Hmm.
So we haven't been able to basically like we haven't observed protons decaying at all in such a large sample,
Mm.
but it's still possible. And so iron stars are basic. So basically, most people believe that protons do actually decay on a long enough time scale, but iron stars are the result of that not being so. So, one second, sorry.
It's all good.
Okay, so sorry. If um if protons don't decay, then what
Hmm.
will happen is so iron stars are another stage of evolution for white dwarfs. So white dwarf, then black dwarf. And then if protons don't decay, then due to quantum tunneling, the like hydrogen and helium atoms will quantum tunnel
Mm.
and slowly become iron, which is the most stable element um, in terms of its nucleus. And so that's just confusing, but basically it's like the sun. So when we do nuclear fusion experiments on Earth, they have to be much hotter than the sun. And the reason for that is that the sun is so much larger than our experiments. So even though it's colder and the rate of fusion is lower, since there's so much stuff in the sun, there's more opportunity for fusion events.
Hmm.
And so even a black dwarf, which is an incredibly cold object, will have some probability of fusion events. Very incredibly low, but look at the timescales we're dealing with, like 10 to the 40 years. Eventually, all of the matter will fuse into iron.
Hmm.
That is the theory of an iron star. But if protons decay, then they would probably decay before this slow fusion could occur. And so then in that situation, in that scenario, iron stars wouldn't exist and it would just be black holes.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember us talking about that. How this it's contested whether protons decay or not. So yeah, definitely imagine an asterisk up there. Um, but regardless of that, the majority of organized matter would still be black holes, such as named the black hole era. Um, Jacob,
Yes.
how you doing?
It's good. My internet cut out again,
Yeah, it's all good.
but
No worries.
I'm back.
All right. Was it? Was it?
I don't
Was
know
it?
why.
Maybe it's a black hole. Hmm.
Maybe,
Maybe.
maybe it's sucking up all our bandwidth.
um. Yeah, that's another thing is
That
that if we do have technological immortality and we're just floating around in like servers and that they're just going through, like the chance that we would hit a black hole is probably low. Still a little scary that we might, that our server containing, our information just goes directly into a black hole. That'd be a very scary event to happen. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
well, here's the thing. You would
Yeah.
have like navigation to avoid that, and also you'd probably have
Ooh,
backup copies of yourself.
that's very true.
No reason not to have like 100 backup copies
That's very
that
true.
just sort of
And again,
remain deactivated.
that's an adaptation. Is that if humans want to survive through these eras, we have to adapt. Um, and it's crazy the effect that the stars have on our society at this like at these scales, because right now there is really only one star that affects us, and that's the sun. But that's just because that we're not even Kardashev 1. We're Kardashev's 0.73 or whatever. Yeah, 0.73. So we're just focused on the planet right now. But when we start hitting 1, 2, 3, and 4, then the stars start becoming necessities for us because we need that energy to power our civilization. And this is the universe being like, nah, you shall not have that. But, and of course, we go over to black holes. The majority of organized matter in the black hole era, just making it a scary universe, a very dark universe with just singularities floating around, just absorbing anything that it comes into contact with.
So yeah, there are two ways to get energy from a black hole.
Right.
One of them is to throw matter into the black hole, which releases a lot of energy, like in the process of falling in.
Mm-hmm.
But that means you have to have matter to throw in. Alternatively, there's Hawking radiation, which for massive, like for all the black holes that exist in the universe right now, it's an incredibly slow trickle, like less than a single watt. However, if you have a digital civilization, then what they could do is slow down their rate of experiencing time
Mm-hmm.
as computers and use less energy per unit time. And so then that Hawking radiation would be enough for them. Hawking radiation only really ramps up near the end of a black hole's life as it like loses all of its mass.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, so that's super. And just think about that as like a visual of just, yeah, like, honestly, at this point, it seems like the technological life is the way to go, considering just kind of how nightmarish the universe is at this point. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like the whole the throwing stuff in to generate energy.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's sort of it makes me think of this scene in the movie like The Day After Tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
where, everything's freezing and they're like trapped in this library and so they like start burning books,
Yeah.
like not a political or whatever, but like literally just because they'll freeze to death if they don't. And so it sort of brings up that sort of imagery for like the black hole societies. Like
Yeah.
imagine if you have, your computer that you live on and you have your sort of storage drive where you keep all your memories and you're like, oh no, there's not enough energy. I'm gonna have to sacrifice my memories for a bit more time. Kind of dark.
Yeah, that is very dark. So, yeah, it's not a happy time. It's not. Unless we can accurately prepare ourselves for this era, and we should. But again, humans tend to suck at looking into the future, at preparing for the future.
Let's
So,
start the anti-entropy party.
exactly. Because this is, honestly, it's an inevitability. Everything is affected by entropy, unless we can change it. But even the stars, even though the largest stars, the largest planets, everything will one day decay because there's no defense against time so far that we've found. But and this really speaks to it that everything just ends up as a black hole. And again, with Hawking radiation, that happens at such a slow rate initially. But yeah, and I did talk about Hawking radiation a little bit on my video about it. But yeah, that's the black hole era. Just a terrifying, scenario without any stars whatsoever. But yeah, if we have nothing else to say about that, then we can pop on over to the final era, the Dark Era, which is anything more than n being over 101. So I don't even know what number that is. I don't even know if we have a name for what number 10 to the 101 is.
I would say 10 Google.
10 Google.
Because 1 Google is 10 to the 100.
Ah.
So
we do have a name.
Yep.
So, yeah. 10 Google years. And there's nothing. all the black holes have just died because of Hawking radiation.
Yep.
If the
one by one,
yeah,
one by one they die in fiery explosions,
yeah, there's just
and then there's like just nothing, just ever redshifting photons just drifting through the universe.
yeah, electrons, positrons drifting
Yep.
around, and everything. Even if they do hit each other, eventually they'll just annihilate each other. So basically, just crash into each other. But everything has decayed. Absolutely everything, and it becomes absolutely black. No light whatsoever. Again, and the only way to really experience true darkness, like 0% light transmittance through whatever, is really the best way is to just go into a cave and go decently down, or if you want to go to the bottom of the ocean, cannot fathom why you would want to, but unless like research purposes, that is true darkness. Just 0% light transmittance. There is no light source other than any artificial ones we've created. So just maybe occasionally you'll see the dim light of a satellite floating by. But that's it. There's nothing. Nothing left besides artificial stuff that we have created. Or if we end up finding aliens, stuff that they've created.
So yeah, one possibility in this stage, and this is sort of like meta universe stuff, is that due to like quantum fluctuations, you might get an event that triggers a new Big Bang.
Yeah.
So that's
so that goes
but
back
otherwise,
to
nothing.
yeah.
No potential for life, not even technological life.
Yeah, because there's just no more energy, really. Because eventually the stuff will run out. Like, even if we were using black holes to generate, like you said, less than a watt of energy, those have gone at this point. So, yeah, like we were talking about earlier with perhaps the universe is cyclical, where it explodes, then condenses, then explodes again. That would hopefully happen here. So we could have a new universe, and maybe we're technologically advanced to be Galactus.
Also, you get the concept of a Boltzmann brain, which is basically just sort of like due to quantum fluctuations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a single particle will pop into existence for a second and then disappear, right?
Yeah.
Now, a rarer event would be two particles next to each other. A rarer event would be three particles next to each other. But given enough time and enough space, eventually, just due to quantum fluctuations, it is inevitable that a consciousness will just appear and then disappear. Just randomly.
Damn.
Yeah.
So all humanity has perished, everything is gone, and just a consciousness pops into reality for 1 millisecond and thinks, get your 4 for 4 at Wendy's, and then pops back out of existence, and that's the last thing that ever exists.
Pretty much, yeah.
The universe. Huh. Damn. It's the existential crisis to end all existential crises, man. And yeah, there's no sub-slides on this. There is nothing. It is just the death of a universe.
Yeah, I'm finding it difficult to imagine humanity going on past this point, or any species going on past this point, unless they literally just like move to another universe or create a new one.
Yeah. The only way out of
This
this...
isn't even possible.
Yeah. The only way out of this is if back at Kardashev 4, or, if we, like, it would be different if we hit Kardashev 5. So just at Kardashev 4, if we manage to stop the thermodynamic process of entropy, then we wouldn't have even gotten to this point. But the only way to get us out of this point, if we ever reach it, is Kardashev 5 or Kardashev Omega, where we can just switch universes at that point.
I've got I've got a quote.
Let's hear it.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Rage
You know
Against
what
the
that is?
Machine. No, go
That's
ahead.
this poem. That's this poem that's often referenced.
Oh, who's it by?
Dylan Thomas. Here, I'll put
Dylan
the link.
Thomas.
That's just the start. That's just the first stanza.
It's very
But like
nice.
they reference it in like Independence Day. You know, like the movie Independence Day with the aliens.
Yeah.
I think Elon Musk tweeted it recently too.
Hmm.
I don't know why. Just out of context.
Grimes is like, oh, it's my husband tweeting again.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so yeah, I would say yeah, Rage Against the Dying Light, Rage Against the Dying Light of the Stars, because you gotta, or else it's over. Because we don't even realize it right now, but every time you look up at the night sky, those are the batteries of a future generation, of your grandkids, 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 grandkids. Those are the. That's what's gonna keep us going. Is the stars. And I would like to. I'd like to stick around. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see where society goes. But I guess if we have nothing else to say on the Dark Era, we move on to final thoughts. Much like the Boltzmann brain, which would be the final thoughts. The final
Pretty
thoughts
much
of the universe.
Yep. So yeah,
Imagine
Imagine if the final thoughts of like, you know, like people think out all their final words, and then their final words end up accidentally just being, "Damn, it's warm in here. Someone get me a Sprite."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
Imagine if that's just like the final thoughts of the Dark Era. It's like,
I forgot
damn,
what book that was. What book was that? That quote.
"Damn, it's warm in here. Someone get me a Sprite."
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I remember reading it in school.
Here, I'll look it up.
Oh, I forget. I forget that.
Oh wait, I think I know what you're talking about.
It was the one where the main character is like the priest's son or whatever, and he gets bullied and stuff because he has to like wear, you know, like nerdy clothes or whatever.
Yeah, and he like ended up lying about the last words. Is that what?
Yeah. No, wait. He handed. Okay, no, he didn't lie. He basically gave the like whoever was running the funeral, like the priest, he handed him the last words, like the actual last words on a notepad,
and so then changed it.
Then the priest was like, "Oh, she actually said," and then just something random.
Yeah, but yeah, it would be hysterical.
I forget that book. I need to remember that book, honestly.
It'd be so funny if the final thoughts were just something so benign. You know, it's like, where did I put my keys? And then just done.
Yeah.
You know.
An interesting theory is.
Did I leave to move on?
An interesting theory is sort of like last Thursdayism is that you could be a Boltzmann brain, and like you were created with all of your memories up until this point.
Well, thanks for that existential crisis.
Yeah, you can pop back out of existence at any moment.
Great.
Yeah. But yeah, this was a kind of depressing episode because, because honestly, this is like the bad future of the universe.
This is the bad ending, yeah.
It's the one that'll happen if our current understanding of physics is correct and if like everything proceeds naturally.
Mm-hmm.
However, it would be wise to factor in human or other intelligent life, like their influence. I mean, think about the Earth, right? Mm-hmm. Naturally, you know, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere wouldn't reach 400 ppm. Naturally, you know, like the ice caps wouldn't be melting.
Yeah.
Naturally, you know, like you wouldn't get smoggy air in the cities.
Mm-hmm.
But humans have influenced the environment for better and for worse, right? And that means that as humanity expands into different Kardashev levels, it's possible that we could influence the fate of the universe. And yeah. However, the ultimate hurdle is that of thermodynamics. So,
Yeah.
We think we've got it, you know, correct, but I mean, so did Isaac Newton.
Yeah. So yeah, this episode is definitely like the bad ending, but I guess the Kardashev one was kind of the good ending with Kardashev 5, Kardashev Omega societies, where we can kind of just step out of this universe and into one of our own creation. So it's up to humanity to see which ending they will get. Maybe they'll even get the secret ending, which has a disco level. But
Disco level.
intergalactic disco.
Free play unlocked. That's what I like.
We get the like Lego Star Wars 100% true
True
Jedi. But yeah,
You
Jacob.
do not know how much I played that game
Dude,
on
I
like the
love that game.
Lego Star Wars,
The Lego games
the
are good.
complete saga.
Jacob, any final thoughts? What are your final Boltzmann brain thoughts?
Final bolts and brains. Stares off into the distance. Binary sunset starts playing. I don't know.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
It would be hysterical if the final thought was just like something that you forgot, that like, you know, like when you forget something and you're like, oh, I'll remember it later.
Oh
Like,
no.
like that's the final thought.
Uh-oh.
The final thought is like, oh, damn, it was, hold on, what was it? Oh yeah, it was Stanley Kubrick. That was his name, and then just done.
Yep. Yeah. So, I guess that's it.
Yeah, I guess that really is it
All right.
for
Well,
humanity's flight across the stars.
yeah. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Sebastian, for taking the lead on this episode, and thank you, Jacob, for being a wonderful guest. Yeah, I'm just gonna like rest all